Thank you, Justin. Have a good one.
You bet. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, Bob. Jorge, how are you both?
Good morning. Oh man, I
Oh.
got to do something with my hair.
It's
Is
all
that?
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, good
Uh,
morning. I'm driving.
Good morning. Good
Driving. Okay,
morning.
that's even worse.
Jorge, I met you earlier this week, right?
Yes, yes, you
Okay.
did.
All right. Just making sure. All right.
Yep,
Cool. Glad to have you
yep.
on.
So I'm in Oregon. Where are you,
I'm
Corey?
based out of Southwest Michigan.
Oh, you're in
Yeah.
Michigan. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yep. Armando, welcome.
Hey, what's up? Good morning.
Morning. Jada and Chai are both traveling today, so I'm hosting.
Oh,
So
Cool,
cool.
cool.
we'll be going through some hard money specific concepts. So be fun. I'm
Sweet,
gonna let a
sweet.
few more people hop on, but yeah, how's everybody doing? What are you guys working on?
Well, I'm working on some co-living assets trying to find a gal a home. She's going to be the manager slash in-house person. So we're working, got four small group doing that, of course. And then
Cool.
that's the,
What type of group, Bob?
what's that?
What type of group did you say you're working on?
Oh, it's a co-living and got four members of this. We're trying to take down a co-living uh, facility or whatever you want to call it, asset in the Portland metro area. Anyway, one of the gals is
Oh,
looking for a place to live. She needs
oh,
to live. Yeah. So anyway, so that's a good
oh,
target. So that's just one of the many things. So that's dirt
Awesome.
flipping and trying to get going on this the money lending side, or affiliate links. How's
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Awesome.
heck
Cool.
yeah. If anybody needs any transactional funding, I'm putting a lot of focus on transactional funding for
Awesome.
EMD, double close, Morby method. We can fund up to 200 million. I know that sounds crazy, but we're crazy about love, man, and making some dreams happen, you know? So,
Awesome.
hit
Good.
me up.
Good to know.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and I'm recently getting into co-living also. I saw I met up with a couple of people who like even I think you mentioned Seattle. So I'm starting to understand like the trends, what's going on with migration and all this good stuff, and what the actual good is of co-living that it's providing to the world. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, now I'm understanding what affordability, that whole concept and that whole what they're trying to provide for people, not just to make money, right? It's more like what's going on out there in the trenches. So that's cool, Bob, that you're doing that. I'd love to link up with you
Yeah,
and
well,
see like,
we're also getting, Paces now. He's blowing up Section 8 and in COC. So there's different other uh resources to to put in your houses. So yeah.
Awesome. Cool. John, welcome. Glad to have you on. All right. And I know Jorge and I talked earlier this week, and yeah, uh, you've got a couple fix and flips you've done, been through some of the joys and the pains of both of those, right?
Yeah, it was a it was a bit of a mission,
How'd it
but
go?
we got it done.
That's good. Good. I feel like we've all learned from at least at some point we've had something painful happen in the investment journey that we learned from. So um,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, it's part of the journey is learning from all that. So yeah. Well, awesome. As I mentioned, Ty and Jada are both out today, so I am covering and hosting today. And some of you guys may not, I mean, you may know my name, but may not know me. So just a little by way of background, I got into real estate investing back in 2023. I was a nurse for 14 years and really wanted to just change the trajectory of my life. So I decided to get into real estate investing, an entrepreneurial endeavor. So 20, well, I guess you could technically say 2022. I briefly had a stint with Airbnb by Arbitrage, which is barely real estate, but I, I don't recommend that. But the um, the true sort of beginning of my real estate journey was back in 2023. Started doing private money lending first. Um, oh yeah, you gotta. Let me see if I
Good.
got. You're asking for your Firefly to come in. Let me see if I can figure it out.
Okay. All good.
Um,
My bad for the interruption. That's all. I was like, I'll
no,
put
it's
it in
all
the chat
good.
so I don't just
Yeah.
interrupt.
I don't see it right now, but let me I'll let's see. Ah,
I
there it
like,
is.
what's
It's
the
in the
best way to
waiting room.
get? What's the
Boom.
best?
There we go.
Yeah, I was like,
All right,
because
cool.
sometimes my raise hand emoji little button on the bottom doesn't work. So I was like, should I
Yeah.
show up should I send like a rocket or a heart in the middle of the screen to get his attention? No.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. So yeah,
All right.
started doing private money lending August of 2023, and did a few deals with first with my own money, um, and then I joined forces with my business partner Eric Fuller, and he and I formed a company and did well, we did north of $20 million in private money deployed over the last well. Um, yeah, from August of 2024 till about November of this last year. And that was a great experience. We deployed a lot of capital. We still have some deals that we're doing together. One of the things we did was we were raising capital, and a lot of the capital sources were getting fairly expensive to work with. And that doesn't mean you can't, you can still do some pretty great private money loans, but the type of loans we were focusing on, which was more fix and flip and things like that, the margins were getting just compressed enough so that we decided we wanted to pivot away from doing those as much. And so we'll still do some loans. We lend in Atlanta, Georgia for private capital only. And then, we've got maybe some larger partners that we'll work with and bring capital to their deals. But now I am working mostly with Jada and Chai as they're building up the brokerage here for Rising Tides Lending. So excited to be working with them and doing residential with DSCR and hard money, and then also doing some commercial lending as well. But I wanted to like share today. I know there's like a mixed, we're in mixed company. We've got some that are like brand spanking new to real estate and still trying to wrap their heads around some of the terms and concepts. And then we got folks that maybe have a little bit more experience. So I'm gonna obviously this Zoom is primarily focused on trying to help people, understand concepts of underwriting and stuff like that. So I wanted to share some ways that I think about specifically hard money since that's the majority of what I did over the last year, was doing these fix and flips. And so I usually think of, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah, I can see.
All right, great. Cool. So I'm going to zoom this up just a little bit. I tend to think of when you're doing a fix and flip or a rehab that you intend to refinance. I think of it in terms of like there's this max capacity of value, right? My max capacity is um, this ARV, which can be a bit of a range, but still that's sort of like my max, right? And I have to somehow fit all of my variables into this capacity of value in the way that I think. So I got a purchase price I got to fit in there, right? I have my rehab budget that needs to fit in there. I got my holding costs, closing costs. I got to give myself some grace and give myself a margin of error for overruns, uh, screwing up my rehab or finding something in the rehab that needs to be, fixed. And then I got to give myself a profit. And what kind of
Justin
profit do I target?
Barber.
What's that?
No, sorry.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead.
All right, cool. Um, so when I'm thinking about a property, the first thing I'm thinking about is just like, obviously the biggest chunk of my overall project is going to need to be these two here, my purchase price and rehab budget. And this has to fit in somewhere in here, and then the rest of the stuff needs to fit somewhere in this zone, right? So um, I use as a just a gut check before I ever even get into, as a lender, before I even get into, well, where's this house? What are the comps? What is the ARV that what I'm gonna double check this ARV. Before I get into any of that, I'm gonna ask the borrower first, what they think the ARV is, what their purchase price is, and what their rehab is gonna be. And I can do a gut check on this. I know for sure that my purchase price and my rehab combined shouldn't exceed typically 70% because I know what these other costs are going to run me. Now you'll see fix and flips all the time testing the limits of these numbers, right? But you got to ask yourself, if I know for sure that I'm going to have to pay taxes, insurance, utilities, probably some lawn and snow removal, depending on where you're at, right? If I know I'm going to have to pay these hard costs, these holding costs over a certain amount of time, if I know that my closing costs are going to be in the ballpark, I mean, a good rule of thumb is like 9%. That's your listing agent, selling agent, and you might have a better setup, right? You might have a listing agent and a selling agent. Maybe you're the realtor, right? Some people have, great scenarios like that, but a good rule of thumb for me as a lender is I need to be thinking about, well, there could be a seller and a buying agent. And then I got standard closing costs. So all combined, 9% is a good number to be referencing as like my ballpark for what these are probably going to cost me. That's 9% of my ARV gone at close. And unless you're absolutely perfect, you're going to make mistakes. So you got to plan for mistakes on the project. And so if I know I have to fit all of these in here, and I know my hard costs of purchase and rehab, what do I want my profit to be? Well, I can tell you right now, if I'm going to work on a $300,000 property, my absolute floor is I want to make at least 10% of that, right? 30,000. If I'm going to be spending 6 months of my life in rehabs, marketing, and trying to get rid of this, property, um, and so that's pretty typical time frame for, a fix and flip. Obviously, if it's a lighter rehab, you might be able to get it done quicker, but you got to be thinking in terms of that. Like, what do I want to make on this thing? So, good range in rule of thumb is 12 to 15%. But I would say the absolute floor is going to be 10%. I see deals. I used to see deals that would come into our private money lending uh, um, inbox all the time where the margins were easily like 5%, 6%. Who wants to do a 6 month flip and make 5, 6%? Like that's loony. So you want to be able to essentially put all of these into some sort of reference point of value. So um, let's just kind of say, um, well, let's go into some of the lender terms because I think sometimes this is actually helpful for understanding where a lender's coming from too. So I'm gonna reference these terms. So how many of you? Well, I I'm gonna just ask like how many of you are 100% confident what some of these basic terms are? ARV. Does everybody understand what that is? Where it's after repair value. I put rehab into it, and now it's worth this market value. Okay, great. Um, all right, great. This is where I think sometimes people listening to lenders get they're not really sure what lenders are even talking about. So LTARV, you'll hear that term thrown around. Loan to after repair value. You'll see loan to value. And uh, did 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 you know there was a difference between those terms? Right. So sometimes we'll hear these terms and they kind of get conflated and thrown around and the person speaking it means one thing, but it actually has a definition and the lenders are are using it by its definition. So it's really important to understand, well, what does this actually mean? So LTARV is going to be the loan to after repair value. So that is the loan amount divided by the ARV. That's going to give you your um, that's going to give you your loan to after repair value. And most lenders are going to be targeting, 65 to 70. You might see some people occasionally go into 75. I think Kiavi goes to 75. Um, you're going to see a wide range. And lenders also have internal criteria for what they're going to define as your LTARV. So newer investors are going to be on the lower end of the scale. More experienced are going to be higher, obviously. Um, a lot of conservative lenders are going to be targeting the 60, 65 range. And 70 is the most common upper bound range with some outliers hitting that 75% range. And then LTV or loan to value, that is the present value, right? It has no reference point to future value. It just has a reference to what is this thing worth right now and how much loan can I give on it in its present situation. Does that make sense? Um, and you're going to see a wider array of how lenders review that, right? So what is as is value? As is a little bit more arbitrary. Typically the lender is going to look at that as like your purchase price, but obviously, could you purchase too high? You could be purchasing too high. The other metrics there, LTARV, that one's going to ultimately define whether or not you're purchasing too high, and your rehab amount. But if you wanted to gut check um, whether or not this is in the realm, a good rule of thumb is to take 70% of the ARV minus your rehab, and that gives you the fix and flippers maximum allowable offer. That'll give you an idea. Am I purchasing in a range that really does kind of generally make sense? And from a lending standpoint, I often will do that as a gut check as well. So let's just kind of do really quickly this one here. So this scenario, You got an ARV of 500,000, um, and they want to do 140 worth of rehab. So if I go 500,000, you guys have calculators? You want to do this real quick? That way, um, if you got a calculator, go ahead and pull it out. Just type in 500,000 and then go times zero point 0.7, which is the decimal for your percentage there, 70%. And that gives you $350,000, right? And then get rid of your rehab. So it needs 140 worth of rehab. So the typical fix and flip max allowable offer is 210. Now, do some people purchase higher than that and still make a deal work? Yeah, it is possible. But this is a general rule of thumb to gut check. Does this make sense? Like we should be somewhere around this price point in that realm. The lower you can go, obviously the better. If you can get a little bit lower, that's good. If you're buying a Burr uh, property where you're planning on refinancing, you want to be at this price or lower, typically lower. We'll get into why some of that makes sense. Um, but yeah, if you want to do a cash out refinance or anything and actually pull cash out of your rehab, you're going to want to be a little lower than this price every time. It's a standard ratio. So kind of going back to these terms, um, we've got LTV, so loan to as is. The lender is going to use this as a definition of what is the max I'll give on your purchase price, basically. That's generally what this one refers to. And there's pretty wide range with lenders. You'll see 80, 90% of as is, 90% for stronger borrowers typically. Um, and so those are the big defining differences between your LTARV and LTV. How's that tracking so far? Is that helpful? Awesome. Um, Seeing some head nods. Hey, if you got video, feel free to put it on if you can. I realize some of you guys are maybe doing work and stuff, but it's helpful to see at least the head nod. I see John giving me the solid head nod, so I know I'm tracking. I haven't lost anybody. Um, and then the last one, and this is a really interesting one. This one can feel a little technical, but this one is loan to cost. This is a very common one. We don't see it advertised a lot. So some lenders will put it on their website. A lot of lenders don't advertise it, but this is absolutely a metric that most lenders underwrite to. They will look at this loan to cost, which is my loan amount to the total cost of the project. And the cost of the project is my purchase price plus my rehab. So between my purchase and my rehab, I've got a total cost for this project. What's the total max amount of this total cost that the lender is willing to put forth, essentially? Now, most lenders will say, I give you 100% of your rehab, but I'm going to give you, a max of that total cost. And so that kind of determines, well, how much am I actually going to give towards the purchase price, right? So the most common metric is set 85 to 90% loan to cost. And typically they're going to aim for that 85 range, but 90% is much more for like the sophisticated borrower. If you've got like 5+ deals in your history, that's usually going to get you the better end of the spectrum on loan to cost. Okay. So let's look at this deal a little bit more in detail. So for this particular one, I went ahead and threw in the numbers here. So uh, ARV, let's say that objectively, if I pull my comps and I can see, hey, I think we can hit 500,000 pretty comfortably on this one for a sales price. then my loan to ARV is going to be, if it's a 70%, if your lender's saying 70% is kind of the max, then you already know that the absolute ceiling, the absolute max that the lender's ever going to give you on this project is going to be 350. Okay. If my loan to value is 85%, then I know that the absolute max they're going to give me at closing towards the purchase price is going to be 178,500 in this scenario with that purchase price of 210. That makes sense. And then if my loan to cost is 90%, then the absolute max, again, this one gives me an absolute ceiling of 315. So in this particular scenario, would LTARV win or would LTC win the battle for the metrics in the lender's mind? What do you guys think?
The LTARB.
So lenders like to lend less.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they're not going to want to give you the max capacity. The LTARV is typically like the base, I shouldn't say base. I would say it's the max ceiling. Like it's the absolute top that you're going to get for this.
Oh, okay.
It's the absolute
Yeah.
top.
Because
But
I was
there's other
thinking in
metrics.
terms, for sure, and like how you said, other metrics. Because I was thinking in terms of, all right, being over leveraged, yes, for sure. That is absolutely a bad position to be in when you're over leveraged, whatever that actually is indicative of, or whatever is all comprised
Yeah.
of that.
Hmm.
But if the deal is a really good deal, there's upside. There's a lot of other stuff. Valuation can be increased. A lot of other things that I'm not too sure of either because I don't have the bullet point in front of me. But
Yep.
I'm thinking like if that deal's good, I'm gonna want to lend them more, especially if I see that they're gonna succeed in that market. I
Yep.
see a lot of other things like you mentioned, metrics.
Yep.
That's why I said that. So,
But the
but I'm wrong.
lenders, yeah, you're good.
Don't
You're
call me
good.
as your lifeline when you're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We would have lost.
It's all good. It's all good. Yep. So, um, yeah, most lenders look at these numbers as their absolute max, right? So, in this scenario, all they need right now, they don't even need this purchase price and rehab. You can just cross that off. If the ARV's 500,000, then we already know the max we're going to give you is 350, period. End of story, right? But if my purchase price is 210 and my rehab is 140, now I have a new metric that is the new definition, and that is my LTC. So now let's just say that they were purchasing a lot higher. I'll show you how this flips the script. So let's just say they did actually purchase way higher. We're not purchasing based on, I don't know, the 70% rule that I just gave you, the math for 70% minus rehab. Let's say they're purchasing for, I don't know, 220. What does this do to our math? Let's go even higher. Let's just go 250, right? All right. In this scenario, if they're purchasing for 250, then the lender is going to say, well, in this scenario, the absolute max I'm going to give you is 350, but you're purchasing kind of high in this scenario, right? So your margins are a little tighter anyway. So you're gonna have to bring a little bit more cash to the table here, right? So still in this scenario, they've got this LTV. If they feel comfortable with this purchase price, then you're still probably only going to get, 212 at closing. If it's this scenario, 85. You could be a great borrower and get 90, right? It's possible. But all of these levers here are subject to one another, if that makes sense. And all three of them help to define and contain the the final numbers of a deal. Does that help understand how a lender's looking through what lens they're looking at? They're going to look at all the different lenses and ultimately land on their final numbers. So those are the biggies. I guess my question is, I mean, if we kind of just did let's do this really quick. So if I did, all right. So let's just say my I'm gonna do this is my purchase price and my rehab, right? Um, I still need to like
Hey,
regardless of how
Justin.
much loan. Yeah.
Sorry, bro. I was gonna ask you a question from your previous slide
Oh,
that you
sure.
had
Yeah,
on.
go for it.
My bad. I
Yeah,
was trying to unmute and I put my. I was like,
no
before we
worries.
get into another thought process here,
Sure.
and so when it comes to loan to cost and us providing an appraisal, right? Because they're gonna want us to provide appraisal, or some other stuff to make sure that our property really is at that
Right.
valuation. So because that's primarily what they're going to be going off of, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
to see where that's at. So, what percentage uh, are they going to be doing the total loan cost to at the appraised value?
Well, um, I would just say the loan to cost really doesn't, it's not immediately impacted by appraisal unless it actually messes with these numbers. So let's just say in this scenario right here, your appraisal actually comes in at 450. Well, now my LTARV trumps everything. Does that make sense? So now I'm back down to 315. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And every lender is going to look at, they're going to have some different frames that they're looking through. They're going to have their own little SOPs for exactly how they're going to frame all this and look at the information. But these are broad, general applications where this absolutely works. And that helps define what do we need to shoot for then? What does our deal need to look like? So, was that helpful to answer your question, Armando?
It gave me a little more clarity. Yeah, for sure. I'm more like seeing the numbers broken down,
Yep, I
like
hear you.
when we can
I'm
compare
super
and like an
visual.
actual appraisal. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I
I hear you.
appreciate that. It gave me a little
Yeah,
more clarity. I'm like, okay,
cool.
okay. I'm still trying to visualize. Thank you.
So let's just say in this scenario here, right? So in this particular scenario, if I purchase at 210, right, it's pretty much it's all of the 70%, right? Okay, so if I purchase at 310, or sorry, purchase and rehab is, here we go. Purchase plus rehab. All right. So if my purchase plus my rehab is 350, I'm already at 70% of ARV. So just remember, I got to go and fill in. I got to go price things out. I got to go price out my insurance. I got to understand a little bit of the historical utilities. And then if I'm going to do lawn, snow removal, and anything like that, I got to make a decision. Am I going to do it myself or am I going to hire somebody to do the lawn and the maintenance? Now, this is typically a smaller number, but it's still an important number. You got your interest in there. So whatever the interest is going to land on my loan, I got to plug that in and figure out like, okay, so, what am I going to ultimately be paying? So, um, my closing costs, these are right out. I think of it this way. They're 9% of this, so that's going to put me at what? It's like half a bar basically here. I'm going to be at like 91% of my deal is or I think of it in reverse, right? So let's say I got 100% of my deal is my ARV purchase price. So I go 100% minus 9, well then I've got 91% left of my to cover all this stuff. Is that tracking? How I'm thinking about that? So I got closing costs. I'll just say closing costs. 9%. All right, so that's gonna fill up, this spot here. And I got um this little buffer here to cover, my holding costs, my margin of error, and profit, right? So typically my holding costs are going to build up from here. They're going to end up getting me in the realm of the 80% range. I'm going to be sitting at like if I kind of do the math here. So let's just say if my holding costs end up eating up another, 2.5% of my ARV. Well, I'm 70 plus 2.5. Well, I'm not 72% of my ARV. If I got my closing costs, those are 9%, 79%. And then my margin of error, if I make a mistake and I got another 10% out plus 10%, um, I'm now at 89%. So it's very important to be thinking in terms of like, what am I going to actually take home on this thing? And be really careful about how I'm structuring that zone right here between my purchase and my close here. I need to be really careful about all the numbers that go in here, which are holding, closing. I can't really control closing too much. If I'm a realtor and I can list my own property, I can kind of control that number. Um, and then, obviously the tighter my rehab budget is, and the better my contractor is, the better this margin of error gets. So this is where your vetting of your contractor is like critical, mission critical. I don't want to belabor the visual, but I wanted to at least share this. Like, this is sort of like what my brain does when I'm thinking underwriting. I think of this little sort of like container of value in my brain. It's like, okay, I'm pretty much capped on the ARV. So when I get to, you know, when I'm thinking of that as my top number, I got a lot of variables to fit in there to make sure this deal works. And then the other thing too is when you're underwriting, we want to think in terms of um, what is my rehab actually going to achieve? So am I thinking in terms of rehabbing my property like the neighbor's property that just sold that I'm using for my ARV comp? Or am I cutting corners that house didn't cut in order to keep my rehab lower to make my purchase price that this seller is not willing to go down on work, right? So if I'm cutting corners and this house over here has a brand new kitchen and they got the nice quartz countertops and my kitchen, I'm just gonna do butcher block and paint the cabinets. Um, if you're looking at your rehab in that frame, then my house, if I'm cutting the corners and I'm going to put a butcher block and I'm going to paint the cabinets that are old and just make them look, spruced up. But this one over here has got brand new stuff. I cannot command the same after repair value. It's not going to happen. Even if it's just perceptual, like that buyer is going to look at two different houses and be like, oh, this one's it's not the same. You know, any thoughts, questions on that so far? We can even look at a property if we got one that we want to like start dissecting.
It's all good. Yeah, I
All
got an
good?
example.
Okay, yeah. Let me pull up my underwriting template. All right. Does anybody have a property that you want to look at? Maybe if you had a fix and flip come your way that you want to look at. If not, I can see if I can find one. Let me see if I can pull one up here. Let's actually pull up one. Let's go here. All right, I got one. All right. Okay. I like pulling it up on two screens because I can kind of pull the details here. This one's a little tricky because it doesn't have the square footage listed here, but let's see if we can pull it up on the county records and we'll pull up the square footage because we gotta know what our square footage is to be able to um know what we're looking at. So let's see. Square footage. Yep, that looks like that's what we're dealing with. 1608. Okay. So let's go in here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look for sold properties. I wanna select my filters to just be houses on Zillow. And I wanna be typically no more than 20 I don't want to be more than 250 square feet typically above my subject property. So we said this one was what? Did I just say that was 16? Yeah. So plus 250 is going to be around um, 858. There isn't going to be a number for that. So we'll just go to 2000 and then, um, it's be a little bit too high to go to 1500. Okay, and then I've got my year of 1945. So we could go 1955. A lot of the houses built before the 1950s weren't a lot different, so I usually will do plus or minus 10 years. But given that this was built a little before 1950, I'll just leave that bottom one open for the time being. And then we want to see, well, what's sold in the last 90 days here? Um, and get a sense of what we're running into here. Okay. All right. So my subject property is right here on 51st Street, and I have a few sold comps right around here that I can dig into. Let's just briefly take a look at the neighborhood here. Okay. So, yep, pretty much right where I'm at here. This is the neighborhood of Parkside as well. It's kind of important to make sure that you're comping in the same subdivision. So this will help you define what subdivision am I in. Okay. So this one looks quite close. We've got one here and we got one here. Let's dig in really quick and see the landscape here too. Okay. So I think this is the subject. Nope, that's not it. Is it this one? Yeah. There it is. Okay. So this is the subject property. These are our closest comps right here. So let's take a look at this one first. It's the lowest one. So I want to see whether or not it's been rehabbed or not. Um, Somewhat. That's a decent kitchen. It's a little older. I'd say the finishes on, I mean, obviously somebody, painted it, made it look pretty decent. The finishes are nothing that are like spellbinding. Would you all agree? But it's pleasant. So this one was just not, maybe not designed. They didn't put a lot of design effort into this. This one here has a little bit more design flair, maybe. Let's see. Well, obviously, they're staging it nicely, but okay. Kitchen's pretty nice, although that tile flooring is a little old. It's an old vibe, but nice new appliances. Okay, pretty good. All right, let's look here at the next one. This one here. This one is what? Like almost right across the street from it, right? Taking a little second to pull up there, but yeah, I think, yep, that's it. So this one's like almost, yeah, not quite right across the street, but really close. Very, very close. So this one's good to look at. Although, of note, it's siding, not brick. So the subject property is brick. And this one is siding. Okay, kitchen cabinets look like newer. It's not like a quartz countertop or anything like that. Decent. Bathrooms are not updated, which is interesting. That's really old. This one looks newer. All right. So there's some thoughtful, tasteful, kind of design features there. The other thing about this property that I happen to know is there is a ADU actually in the backyard. So that is it doesn't, I don't think it shows it on Zillow here, but I just happen to know about this house. And it's actually got this little um, backyard building that adds some additional square footage. The exact square footage, I don't actually know. But it's easily, another, you know, in the realm of 200 to 300 square feet. But for now, I'm just going to work on comping just the house. And then that ADU does add value though. So let's take a look at this and start plotting some of these on paper and see what we come up with. This one's pretty far away, but price per square foot, 319. I got this one, which is my price per square foot's 283. And I got this one here with price per square foot of 276. And then this random one, which was maybe not the super nicest finish, 259. And this one was, when was this sold? This one was sold back in October. This one was sold in December, and this one was sold in December. So these are definitely going to be our strongest comps, right? So let's go ahead and start pulling this together. So the subject property is this one here. And where's my underwriting template? There we go. All right. So subject property is going to be this one. My year built was 1945, and it is let me pull this actually over here so I'm not going so far. And my Bed bath count is 3-2. And my lot size is not well defined here. So we're going to go without that for the moment. But I do know that the square footage of the main house is 1608. Um, and we'll just go with that. Okay. All right. Comp number one is going to probably be, let's go with this one here. Now, I would say brick typically is a very small premium, but it's not arguably a massive difference. But it is good to note that it theoretically does provide a little bit of additional value. So let's go ahead and drop comp number one down here. This one here is built in 1945. Doesn't get too much better than that. It is a 3-2, right? 3-2. The lot size is 6,298. Actually, do we have a lot size here? Maybe we do. Let's see. Not really. So a little hard to tell for that one. Okay, we'll just keep moving on. Square footage of this house is 1558, 1588, right? 1588. There we go. And this one was purchased for 450. So what is it? What was it listed for? It was listed for 472. Didn't go down much. Okay. 450. Okay. We'll get to adjustments here in just a second, if there are any that we need to make. Um, this one here, let's see if it's got garage. I don't see anything like that. Let's see if it's got a pool. Nope. Okay. All right. So no weird, unique additional features here. Let's go with comp number two now. So this one here is a 3-3. It's a little bit bigger. It's actually decent amount bigger than the subject property. So we'll have to be careful with that. Oops. What did I just copy there? I needed this. Okay. This one was built in 1948. And this is a 3-3. All right, so we have one extra bathroom, right? This is 1936. All right, and the purchase price was 535. 535. Okay. All right. We could go down the road of like getting a third comp, but I mean, I think it's good to go and find three, but let's just start with the two just for the sake of time. And let's work with what we've got to get a sense of where this is sitting. Okay. So, um, really important is just double check and make sure there's no major differences, right? So obviously we got 3 3s, right? We got this one here, which is an extra bathroom. So generally, it's good to adjust the bathroom, the purchase price down a flat amount. So I adjust that down 10,000. So that drops my purchase price value to 525, and this puts our price per square foot pretty comfortably in the range of the 283, 271. My lowest comp is going to be comp number two. And so on the low, what am I doing here? this one here, this one's wrong. Oh, yeah, it's because it's referencing these guys here. I'm gonna just put it to E. Boom. There we go. So, all right, my um average comp size is telling me that this property is worth a 445, 861, give or take. Now, just remember there is that ADU on the back end, which is going to provide a little additional square footage. So we know that's actually going to add some value. So in theory, this could be much closer to a 1900 square foot house. So I'm not going to bank on this, but I am going to say that that does add value, and we could be in the sales price range of 526, 825, and on the low end, I could be at 445 roughly, right? So if that ADU is a lot smaller, which I would need to nail that down to define absolutely my zone, but I do think it's in the realm of say 300 square feet, give or take. And so I think that our sales price could be in the realm of much closer to the 500 thousand mark there. Biggest thing is just making sure that we throw in some basic adjustments, right? Because when you've got these little differences like this here, an extra bathroom, or if you've got a garage or a pool, making sure that you make some adjustment down. Appraisers are going to do that, so it's worthy of your effort, especially if you're trying to comp out a fix and flip. It's really important and worthy of your effort to figure out, okay, what should I be dropping these down to? And there's some general principles. I'm using the 2025 appraisal guidelines here, which are very similar to what you're going to see an appraiser ultimately adjust these down. Now, a local appraiser is going to have a lot more knowledge about that specific area and how that specific area reacts to the loss or gain of a pool, the loss or gain of a garage. Obviously, if I have a garage here in Southwest Michigan and it's like 20 degrees and snowing, my garage is really valuable to me. If I have a garage in a place that never snows and really doesn't have a lot of crazy weather, maybe it's not as big a deal. Maybe it's not quite as big a price tag. Samuel, you grew up in South Carolina, got some nice, easygoing weather for the most part. How much how common is it for people to have a garage and think their garage is like the cat's meow? Are you there, Samuel? Maybe you got called away. Samuel's active duty, so he's a busy guy. Um, but yeah, you get the idea. If it's an area where there's not a huge demand for that kind of a additional feature, it may carry less value in its ultimate numbers. But good rule of thumb is like a garage is, one car garage is going to give you like a $10,000 adjustment. It's worthy of at least considering that, especially if you're a fix and flipper, making sure that you give yourself a conservative ARV to define what is the best price for me to purchase at. All right, and then this particular house, I know between the ADU and um, the main house is going to need, yeah, Armando, you got a question?
Yes, sir.
All
Okay.
right,
My question. Let me make
sure,
sure it comes out. Let me make sure it makes sense. So
sure.
when you're talking about, the ARV, making sure that it is um, trying to be as accurate as we can with ARV, which has to do with
Mhm.
the comps that we pull. So my question has to do with the comps. From your recent experience, how far back are we going with comps? And that's I'm just asking what the criteria is because I know
Yeah.
it had changed from we can go back maybe a year, then it condensed to about 6 months, then it was like 2 months because of how everything was downtrending with the
Yep.
higher interest rates. And, you know, I'm not
Yep.
sure if since they're trying to now say there's this newer prediction with how the rates are going to be changing here in the near future, or if
Yep.
just seeing how things have kind of not, I don't want to say stabilized, but it was our rates stayed, at that 6% for quite some time. Everybody
Yep.
survived to 2025, and then now we're here. So just based on your experience, because you've been comping a lot more properties than I have, and been with people who've been asking for these loans for hard money on flips and stuff.
Yep.
So what is the criteria that we're looking for right now? What would keep us safe? Like if somebody were telling me, "Hey, I want a loan," and we're asking either for their CMA or several comps if we're asking for four, like what's the year build tolerance that we're going plus or minus on the
Hmm.
year build, our square footage. Is it still safe to go off of price per square foot if they're not able to meet all that criteria, if we're needing like three comps to hit like a good average for our ERV?
I think price per square footage is the rule of thumb all the time, hands down. It's the best gauge for what's going on. And I will say generally the strongest metric is going to be your square footage, that your square footage is similar and like, right? Because if you're trying to compare a 1,600 square foot house with a 3,000 square foot house, they're in different brackets. They can't be compared together. So often you'll end up seeing some compression sometimes hurts you actually because you'll see like a 3,000 square foot house, and well, that price per square foot doesn't always track up. It may actually get compressed as you get to a bigger square foot house until you get to,
Yeah,
different tiers. You might end up getting to, oh, now we're flipping into the luxury tier. Now that price per square foot does finally jump up. And so that's the reason why you want to be in the range of somewhere around like 250 plus or minus square footage, because you don't want to try and compare to something that might be in a totally different bracket.
yeah, absolutely, and a whole different
But 90
developer over
days,
there.
I would say 90 days is, I think it's a good rule of thumb in any market, up or down. It's just a better metric for
About
any.
90 days.
Because think about it, when you're comping a property, if your nearest comp, your best comp is a year ago, you're saying, well, based on what this property sold 12 months ago, a lot can change in the market. But
Yeah,
based on 12 months
absolutely.
ago, my property is worth an ARV. I'm underwriting today, and my ARV is based on today's underwriting from 12 months ago sales data. It's worth this much. And somehow that number needs to hold for another 6 to 12 months. There's a lot of variables that can happen in that period of time.
Yeah,
It doesn't take 12
that's
to
true.
24 months for a market to start to see some serious softening or even some appreciation. But appreciation is just always a win, right? Like to me, that's a win. If my fix and flip actually appreciates and I can sell it for a lot more, great. Never count on it. Ever. Never ever count. Like, oh, it should appreciate by then.
Yeah, for
Not a
sure.
good rule of thumb.
Yeah,
I
that's
should
what.
always be thinking in terms of, well, it might go down. What could it go down to? Is there any trend right now? And you can do some market research. I think the tighter you can make your comps go. So I usually think in terms of 90 days first and foremost. If I have to go back 6 months, I need to be thinking in terms of what is happening in this market. If over the last year we're seeing a year over year drop in values by, 10% from last year to this year, well, then over the last 6 months, we've also seen softening.
Hmm.
And so I should be applying a softened assessment to my ARV. Let's say this particular market that we're looking at right here is seeing some softening. And over the last year, it's gone down 10%. And I got to somehow make this thing hold for the next 6 months to 12 months. Well, then I would be applying a 10% drop on all of these. That puts my average, closer to 400,000. That's a more conservative evaluation that I should be seeing. Um, if I know for sure that the market is actively in a softening phase. Like we've got markets in Atlanta, in and around Atlanta, Georgia. You know who Abraham Gray is, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's pockets of their market where I talk with his underwriter Nitin periodically, and Nitin's great about this, but he knows the little pockets of Atlanta where they're seeing sharp, downward trend. And so in certain pockets, he's applying an immediate, he's just like "Pfft," that pocket immediately, it's getting 10% off immediately because I know
Yeah,
that area really well. So obviously, as a fix and flipper, you're going to know
that's
your
real.
area even better than me. If I'm lending nationwide, I'm just looking at ballparks as the lender, and then the appraiser is going to give us the more tight data.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's a metric that I didn't get an update on, which was from Pace. It
Hmm.
was I forget it when it was. It was like a year ago. He was saying like a national average of a decrease in the value of homes was about 2%. And that was like a downward. So I'm not sure if now if we go back to an upward, because before 2023, everything was steadily climbing, right? So the comping rules were different. And
Hmm.
like I want to be prepared. I'm asking in the point of I'm going to get loans too. I'm going to get debt. Debt isn't bad,
Yep.
right? We know that. So I want to
Hmm.
be prepared, and I want to present a full package to my lenders so that I'm moving fast and I know what I'm presenting, and I'm like, let's go. Like here we do. Here's my pitch deck, and these are the parameters you're looking for, and I've met them all. But I want to make sure that it is going to be there because I've heard of also borrowers almost to the finish line, and then the lender's like, sorry, we can't fund you after all. And it's like, why wasn't that discussed a month ago or several months ago, especially when it comes to commercial multifamily, you know.
Yep.
But
This
we're
is
talking
something
about
I
single
do.
family. So was that?
This is something I do. I love ChatGPT because it can search the internet too. If you get I don't know if the free version does it, but the paid version, yeah, we can absolutely look at we can pull up data. So let's just go like, I mean, this is to me very interesting. So let's
Yeah.
go
Hey Justin,
go
and
here.
just real quick, bro, I apologize if I took you off course of what the
Oh no,
agenda
you're good.
was
No, that's a
of
great
your
question.
of your presentation, bro. My bad.
No, you're good.
Trying to take control. Okay.
No, this is a great question. Great question. So, for me, I'll often look at, okay, so what is the general trend in sales prices for homes year over year from last year to now in Atlanta, Georgia? Now, I know I'm doing pretty broad. A zip code would be better because there's low income areas of Atlanta and there's high income and they're not going to be the same. It's the same thing with Pace's data. Like obviously nationally there's a market trend. But again, that's the aggregate data that over the whole country. Does that directly apply to your area? Does 2% nationwide apply to a specific region where they just lost a major manufacturer and now there's all these people out of jobs? And now what are we seeing with the market in that area? That one might be closer to 10, 15% drop because of that little tiny pocket. So, but this can give you, some general data, and you can even ask for it to give you the data source. So like right here we go. Redfin figures show certain segments with a 8.4% median sale price. That's up 8.4% year over year in November of 2025. So that's promising. That was not the case earlier in the year. There were pockets of Atlanta that had seen a pretty solid drop. So it was a softening market. You got to really pay attention to what's going on in your market. That's why I think there's a lot of value in people disciplining themselves to investing locally or choosing or whatever pocket you do choose to invest in that area and become the expert in your area, you know, because then you have the market data and you become the resident expert in that market. Think about Abraham. How many cities does Abraham invest in? How many states does he invest in?
One state.
One. One state, one city in that state, basically. Although I think he is
Yeah.
expanding a little bit because he's got some additional resources that he's tapping into now. But still,
So
like it's he's an expert in his area.
he's trading bananas now.
He's trading
I'm
bananas.
kidding. Yeah, I started.
Awesome.
Anyways, we won't go into there.
All
Well,
right,
I met some
guys.
gal out
Well,
overseas. She's got some banana trees. I'm like, send some over.
there you go.
Yeah. So, and then I was going to ask you about your chat. It was rendering that data. And it's probably accurate. I don't think mine would. Well, for one, I noticed the version of your chat was different probably than what mine is right now because I haven't used it for a while. I used different language models because my chat wasn't giving me results that I needed in accuracy.
Oh,
But
gotcha.
I
Yeah.
also realized that we have to prompt it, maybe train it, and
Yes.
also to be able to um, access certain sources of
Yeah.
articles and journals. So is that what you did prior to you being able to now have like a certain?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay.
I have projects here, so I have certain projects where they're functioning as specific roles, and I've told ChatGPT how I want it to function in that role. So this one's always looking at through things from the framework of an underwriter. Um,
Oh,
so
nice.
I've got it, always thinking in terms of whatever I put in front of it, think of it in terms of an underwriter. It's not perfect, but hey, it's a pretty it's a it's a pretty solid start often.
Yeah.
I've had big huge presentations sent to me where I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't stand to look at another big long dissertation on your project." Some people don't know how the fine art of the pitch deck, which is like short. Give me the highlights and tell me what's going on, but also
Uh,
not so short that you didn't tell me anything, right?
yeah.
That's the fatal issue. So I deal with a lot of commercial deals. People will throw these big, huge, I mean, 15, 20-page dissertation. Like, no, I don't want to read through all of that. So I'll throw it in here and just be like, give me the highlights. Like, what
Oh,
are they
nice.
saying? What are they saying? And then I'll be like, okay, well, what page number was that on? Okay, let me look at that. I just want to see the NOI. Like, show me the NOI or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah,
I attended a fun to fun group meeting last week, and one of the gentlemen was mentioning how he has a 200-page OM. He's like, "Yeah, this is typical for me." I'm like,
yeah,
"What?" So I
that's too
need your
much.
prompt. I need your prompt.
Yeah. Well, you can also ask ChatGPT to come up with prompts. So do this. Okay. I need help with underwriting as a residential fix and flipper in, I don't know. Let's go Anderson, South Carolina. Please generate a prompt for me to provide you so that you can provide me with expert underwriting insights, um, advice, um, market trends, etc. Okay. And it'll generate its prompt for me. Here's a friendly, clear prompt you can use. So ChatGPT generates the prompt to get ChatGPT to operate the way that I want ChatGPT to operate. So here you go. I'm evaluating a potential fix and flip in North South Carolina and would love underwriting guidance. Here are the details of the property and deal. Oh, and here's another one. I've already trained this one, so watch this. Let's see. Let's see how close I end up landing with my ARV on the one we just underwrote, by the way. You ready?
Yeah, that'd
All
be
right, I've
cool.
already trained this one. So give me an ARV for this property. I know there is an ADU in the back that is roughly 300 square feet. Um, County records show this house is 1608 square feet without the ADU. Boom. See what it does. How close does it get? Boom. What did we end up saying it was? I said on the low end, it was
I don't remember.
445. On the high end, it's five. Well, on the average end, it would be 526. Not too bad. It's in the realm.
Not too
Um,
bad.
it's and obviously this is a harder property because we're talking about an ADU that is sort of more like arbitrary. Um, there's not a lot of records of it either. So, what is this thing actually worth? It's probably factoring in some other variables like, is this ADU permitted? How's the county going to look at it? Yada yada yada. So, but yeah, most realistic ARV range 450 to 500. Not too bad. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
You probably didn't take into account the current lumber rate hike.
what's that?
It probably didn't take into account the recent lumber price increase.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Don't forget that part.
Yep.
That's
Awesome.
cool.
Okay, great. All
Sweet.
righty. Well, I think this was good. Hopefully you guys let me open it up for any questions you guys got, and then we'll probably hop off.
I had a question. Your underwriting calculator, that's yours you built?
Yeah, it's one that I wrote. I built out. Yeah.
Gotcha. All righty.
Yeah.
So are you on any programs or yourself? Or you're just
I'm
doing
in
your own?
sub two. I'm in sub two in Gator. Um, is that what you're
No,
referencing?
no, I mean, are you doing any other things like school and those kind of
Oh,
market?
gotcha. No, I haven't done anything with school. I don't know. I might join some of we'll see. I might do some stuff with Chai. He's doing like a private money lending cohort where he's doing some training.
Oh, is he doing a school thing? Oh, I
I don't
didn't
know if
get
it's
that.
school or what. I haven't. He's just mentioned it to me that he's doing it. He's already got his first cohort, so he hasn't done a lot of advertising of it. But
Got it. Okay.
yeah,
All
he's
right.
got a
Well,
few
yeah.
folks
Well,
that are in there and learning underwriting and stuff. So I might do a little bit of teaching here and there. We'll see.
okay. Cool. Hey,
Yeah,
thanks for doing this.
yeah, you bet. Hopefully it was valuable and helpful. I mean, there's a lot more to go into, but this is like uh, underwriting is kind of like an endless topic because there's so many little like caveats you can pull out. But this is a good way to be able to get a general gauge of what the heck is going on with this property. What's my reasonable range that this thing could be worth. And I think it's really good and wise to also underwrite, even if you're doing a fix and flip. I think it's wise to underwrite the rental potential of the property as well immediately, right? That gives you a second exit. Um, and you want to know what would a refinance look like? And am I positioned well? Am I purchasing at the right price for a plan B exit if the market shifts and there's just not a lot of people buying? We're already seeing that. I saw that with a lot of my deals where they bought the property as a flip. That was their intent, and it just sat on the market a lot longer. Um, I and a lot of them did end up selling at a fairly reasonable price, but at the end of the day, a lot of people are like just kind of hanging out on the market a lot longer in certain regions. So maybe if the rates go down, we'll see a little bit of a transient change there, but I do think, that runs the risk of housing prices shooting up even more than they already are. And then you end up with only a brief period of time where people are like, yeah, let's do it. And then, oh, it's once again unaffordable. So we'll see. Hard to tell. All right, guys. Great hanging out with you. Have a great day, great weekend. Hope this was valuable. If it was,
It was
comment on the
fun.
underwriting power hour and let Chai and Jada know I did a good job. So all
Yeah, yeah.
right, take care.
Sounds
Bye-bye.
good. All right, later. Peace. It was fun, bro.
Bye-bye.